Commander Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge of the human spaceship called Valkyrie. He looked out the window at the dark space filled with stars. 3 years had passed since humans first met aliens from the Galactic Council. The Council was a big group of alien species who worked together. But they still treated humans like children. The aliens thought humans were too young and too violent to be important. Jake knew the aliens were polite, but he could tell they looked down on humans. They said humans were too quick to fight, too ready to use weapons. They did not understand that Earth was a hard planet. It made humans strong and ready to survive. The aliens lived on easy planets where everything was safe. Earth was different. Lieutenant Amy Peterson worked at the communications desk. Her fingers moved quickly over the bright screen in front of her. Suddenly she looked up. "Commander, we are getting a distress signal. It is coming on the emergency channel that all ships use." Jake sat up straight. "Let me hear it." The message played through the speakers. There was a lot of noise and static. A high voice spoke in broken words. The voice belonged to a Viridian alien. "This is merchant ship Harmony's Light. We are under attack. Kresh raiders are shooting at us. We have many passengers. There are children on board. Please help us. Anyone who can hear this." Then there was screaming. Then nothing. "How far away are they?" Jake asked quickly. Amy checked her screen. 12 light hours away, sir. That is inside Council-protected space. Are there any Council ships nearby who can help them? Lieutenant Kevin Drake looked at his screen and shook his head. "No, sir. The closest Council patrol ship is 40 hours away." Jake felt his jaw tighten. 40 hours was too long. The Kresh raiders were famous for being cruel. They were aliens who captured other beings and sold them as slaves. They stole everything they could find. If the stories were true, that merchant ship had maybe 2 hours before the raiders would board it. The passengers would be taken as slaves if they survived at all. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Morgan sat at the navigation controls. She spoke up before Jake could ask. "We can reach them in 90 minutes if we push our engines to maximum speed." Jake did not think twice. "Set the course. Go as fast as we can. Amy, send a message to all Council stations. Tell them that Earthship Valkyrie is going to help that merchant ship." Kevin spoke carefully. "Sir, the Council has rules. We need permission before we enter their protected space with weapons." "Then they should have gotten there first," Jake said in a cold voice. "We are not going to let people die because of paperwork. Turn on all weapons. Everyone to battle stations." The crew moved fast. Alarms rang throughout the ship. Everyone rushed to their positions. The Valkyrie was small compared to most alien warships, but it was built by humans who understood fighting and war. As the ship flew faster toward the merchant vessel, Jake looked up information about the Kresh. They were reptile aliens known for being brutal and mean. They did not follow Council laws. They attacked in groups using many ships to overwhelm their victims. Most Council species avoided fighting them. Instead, they filed complaints through official channels. That could take months or years. Jake thought that humans were about to teach the Kresh a different lesson. 70 minutes until we reach them," Rachel announced. Jake stood up and walked to the tactical display screen. It showed a map of space. "Amy, try to contact that merchant ship. Let them know help is coming. Kevin, get ready to target the raiders. I want to disable their ships, not destroy them. Unless they give us no choice." "Understood, Commander." The minutes felt like hours as the Valkyrie raced through space. Jake walked back and forth on the bridge. His mind went through different battle plans. They would probably be outnumbered. The smart thing would be to wait for backup. But Jake grew up in Detroit in neighborhoods where he learned early that sometimes you had to stand up to bullies. You had to say no. The Council aliens had forgotten that lesson. Maybe they never knew it. Earth remembered. Dropping out of faster than light speed in 30 seconds, Rachel counted down. 20 seconds. 10 seconds now. The view outside the window changed. Stars stopped being long streaks of light. They became points again. The tactical display lit up with dots. One big slow dot was the merchant ship. Around it were 6 smaller aggressive dots. The Kresh raiders. The raiders had just noticed the Valkyrie. Amy spoke quietly as she read her instruments. "Commander, the merchant ship has no shields left. Air is leaking from holes in the hull. I am detecting life signs, but they are getting weaker." Jake's face became hard. "Target the nearest raider. Fire when ready." The Valkyrie's main weapon fired. It shot a piece of heavy metal at incredible speed. The nearest Kresh raider never saw it coming. Its shields flickered and died. The metal round punched a hole through the hull. Air and pieces of the ship sprayed into space. Direct hit, Kevin reported with satisfaction. Target is disabled. Their life support is failing. The other 5 crash ships broke apart from their formation. They seemed confused. They could not tell if the human ship was dangerous or not. The raiders hesitated. In that moment of confusion, Jake saw his chance. Rachel turned the ship around. Keep distance from them, but keep them in range of our weapons. Amy, send a message in the Kresh language. Tell them to stop fighting or we will destroy them. They are not answering, Amy said after a moment. Wait, I am getting signals. They are talking to each other. Jake watched the screen. The Kresh ships were forming up again. They were getting ready for a coordinated attack. They had made their choice. They are charging their weapons, Kevin warned. All 5 ships are locked onto us, evasive pattern Delta, Jake ordered. Return fire at all hostile ships. Show them what happens when they threaten human ships. The Valkyrie twisted and turned through space. It moved with surprising speed and grace for a warship. Humans had learned how to fly and fight in Earth's atmosphere. Those lessons worked well in space too. The ship dodged between the incoming plasma shots. Each burst of energy missed by just a few meters. The Valkyrie's weapons fired back. Heavy rounds hammered into the Kresh raiders at extreme speeds. Laser beams cut through their shields. One raider exploded in a brief flash of light as its power core broke. Another tumbled away, its engines destroyed. 3 hostiles disabled, Kevin reported. 2 more are trying to run away. Jake felt no joy in the destruction. This was what had to be done, not something to celebrate. Disable their faster-than-light drives. We cannot let them report back to their main fleet. The Valkyrie's computer locked onto the fleeing ships. 2 more rounds flashed across space. They struck the raiders' engine sections perfectly. The ships went dark and began to drift. All hostile ships neutralized, Kevin confirmed. Rachel, get us to that merchant ship, Jake commanded. Amy, contact them. As the Valkyrie moved closer to the damaged vessel, Amy made contact. The reply was weak but filled with desperate hope. Human ship, you came? We thought no one would. This is Commander Jake Morrison of Earthship Valkyrie. We are here to help. What is your condition? The merchant captain's voice shook. Many holes in the hull. Life support failing. 147 passengers, including 23 younglings. We cannot evacuate. Jake turned to his crew. Rachel, position us next to their biggest hull breach. Kevin, prepare emergency patches and oxygen tanks. Amy, work with their crew. We are going to save that ship. The rescue had begun. The next hour was full of controlled chaos. Human engineers in special spacesuits worked alongside Viridian crew members. They sealed the holes in the hull and restored the life support systems. The Valkyrie's medical bay quickly filled with injured passengers. Dr. Lisa Grant and her team worked without stopping to help the wounded. Jake watched from the bridge as his crew performed what looked like a miracle. They worked together perfectly to save lives. This was what humans did best. Throughout history on Earth, humans had survived hurricanes, earthquakes, and wars. They had learned to save each other when everything went wrong. Commander, Amy interrupted his thoughts. We are receiving a message from the Galactic Council. Admiral Veloth of the Council Defense Fleet wants to speak with you immediately. Jake straightened his uniform. Admiral Veloth was a Centauran alien. The Centaurans were one of the founding species of the Council. They were known for following rules strictly. This conversation was going to be difficult. Put him through. A holographic image appeared above the display. Admiral Veloth looked impressive and intimidating. His scaled features showed clear displeasure. Commander Morrison, you have broken many Council rules. You entered protected space without permission. You engaged in military action without Council approval. Jake looked directly at the Admiral. Admiral, we answered a distress call. Galactic law says that any ship that can help must do so. The correct procedure was to forward the distress call to the nearest Council patrol and wait for their arrival, which would have taken 40 hours. Jake replied. Those passengers did not have 40 hours. They barely had 2. Admiral Veloth's expression did not change. You have also destroyed or disabled 6 vessels without proper legal authority. The Kresh, while criminals, have rights under Council law. Jake felt his temper rising but kept his voice calm. Admiral, those rights did not seem to matter to the 147 innocent beings they were attacking. We gave them a chance to surrender. They chose to fight. Still, your actions will be reviewed by the Council. You will stay at your current location until an investigation team arrives. Before Jake could answer, another voice broke into the conversation. Admiral Veloth, this is Captain Sorath of the merchant vessel Harmony's Light. A Viridian female appeared in the display. Her blue skin had medical patches on it. With all respect, the human commander and his crew saved our lives. 23 children would have died or become slaves without them. Admiral Veloth paused. Jake saw uncertainty flicker in his eyes. Captain Sorath, your statement will be noted. However, we must maintain proper procedure. Then perhaps your procedures need to change, Jake said quietly. Because where I come from, we do not argue about rules while people are dying. The transmission ended. Jake stared at the empty space where the images had been. Amy spoke softly behind him. Sir, we are receiving messages from all across this sector of space. Word of the rescue is spreading fast. Jake nodded slowly. For better or worse, humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy. They had spoken in the language they understood best. Action instead of words. Protection instead of paperwork. The real test was just beginning. 3 days passed. The Valkyrie remained near the merchant ship, helping with repairs. The diplomatic storm from Jake's actions spread through the Council like wildfire. Some species praised the quick response. Others condemned the violation of procedure. But something else was happening too. More distress calls started coming in. Merchant ships across the sector were reporting the locations of Kresh raiders. Civilian populations were asking for human protection. The Council was losing control of the narrative. People wanted someone who would actually help them, not just file reports. On the 4th day, Amy brought Jake urgent news. Commander, we have intercepted a message on Kresh communication channels. It has been sent to their entire network. Show me. A reptilian face appeared on the screen. It was ugly and twisted with rage. The Kresh warlord spoke in harsh sounds. The computer translated his words. The humans have dishonored the Kresh Dominion. They have destroyed what was rightfully ours. For this insult, we declare blood vendetta. Any human vessel found in our space will be destroyed. Any human colony we can reach will burn. We will show these Deathworlders what real predators are. The message ended. Jake sat back and thought about what this meant. Deathworlders. That word had become an insult in Council space. It referred to humans coming from Earth, a planet the rest of the galaxy thought was barely livable. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous predators everywhere. Earth was a nightmare world to most aliens. But to Jake and his crew, it was simply home. Amy, send this message to Earth Command right away. Mark it as highest priority. The Kresh have just declared war on humanity. Should we inform the Council, sir? Yes, but I think they already know. This is exactly what they were afraid would happen. Jake stood and walked to the window. Somewhere out there, the Kresh were preparing for war. Call a meeting of all senior officers. 30 minutes. The briefing room was small and cramped. Jake's senior officers crowded around the central display table. Their faces showed concern mixed with determination. All right, everyone? Jake began without wasting time. The Kresh have declared vendetta against humanity. Our intelligence estimates they have about 200 ships scattered across 7 star systems. They are mostly raiders and light cruisers. They attack in packs using numbers to overwhelm their victims. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Brooks, the chief engineer, asked a question. How many ships do we have in this sector? Right now, we have 6 patrol vessels, including the Valkyrie, 2 frigates, 1 destroyer. We are badly outnumbered. Kevin Drake studied the tactical display. What about help from the Council? Jake's expression became hard. The Council has made it clear they see this as a human problem. We broke their rules. We deal with the consequences. Silence fell over the room. Then Rachel Morgan spoke. Her voice cut through the tension. So we do what humans have always done. We adapt, we improvise. We win with what we have, Jake nodded. Earth Command is sending reinforcements, but they will not arrive for 3 weeks. Until then, we need to disrupt Kresh operations, protect human ships and colonies, and send a message that humanity does not back down from threats. What kind of message? Daniel asked. Jake pulled up a star chart on the display. It showed several star systems. The Kresh work from 3 main bases. They are slavers and pirates. That means they need stolen supplies and captured technology to survive. We hit their supply lines, destroy their bases, make every raid cost more than they can afford. Guerrilla warfare, Amy said quietly. Hit-and-run tactics. Exactly. The Kresh are used to how the Council operates. Formal complaints. Economic sanctions that take years. They have never faced an enemy willing to bring the fight directly to them. Kevin frowned. Sir, you are talking about offensive operations outside Council space. That will make our diplomatic situation much worse. I know, Jake acknowledged. But the Council does not understand something important. Earth did not become what it is by playing safe. We did not reach space by following rules written by others. Sometimes the only way to protect what matters is to make the predators afraid of you. He looked around the table at each officer. I am not ordering anyone into this. What I am suggesting goes beyond our original mission. If anyone wants to transfer back to Earth, I will approve it. No questions asked. No negative marks on your record. Nobody moved. Rachel spoke for all of them. Sir, we signed up to protect humanity's interests. That includes showing these raiders that humans are not prey. Jake felt pride in his crew. All right then. Rachel, plot courses to the nearest Kresh supply depot. Kevin, I want detailed analysis of their defensive systems. Daniel, improve our shields and weapons however you can. Amy, monitor all Kresh communications. Find out how they coordinate their raids. The officers left to do their work. Jake was alone with his thoughts. He read Earth Command's latest message carefully. Humanity's leaders were caught between supporting their people and keeping good relations with the Council. They were giving him freedom to act, but if things went wrong, he would be blamed. Jake could accept that. What he could not accept was doing nothing while human lives were in danger. The Valkyrie was going hunting. 2 days later, the Valkyrie dropped out of faster-than-light travel in an unmapped star system. They were on the edge of Kresh territory. Long-range sensors had found a supply depot here. It was a small station where raiders brought stolen goods and refueled their ships. Detecting 6 vessels docked at the station, Kevin reported. Station defenses are minimal. Looks like they are relying on their hidden location for security. They will not be hidden for much longer, Jake said. Battle stations, everyone. Rachel, take us in fast. I want those ships disabled before they can launch and escape. The Valkyrie flew toward the station at maximum speed. Its weapons were charged and ready. The Kresh never knew what hit them. Heavy metal rounds tore through docked ships like paper. Missiles reduced the station's weak defenses to floating debris. Within 5 minutes, the depot was a burning wreck. Scan for survivors, Jake ordered. We are not murderers. Broadcast evacuation warnings. Give them time to reach the escape pods. As Kresh crew members fled the dying station in small pods, Jake recorded a message. This is Commander Jake Morrison of Earthship Valkyrie. You declared vendetta against humanity. You threatened our people. Consider this our response. Every time you attack a human target, we will destroy one of yours. Every raid you conduct, we will answer with fire. This is your only warning. The message was sent on all Kresh communication frequencies. Then the Valkyrie jumped back into faster-than-light travel, leaving destruction behind. News of the attack spread quickly through the galaxy. The Galactic Council erupted in angry protests. Member species accused humanity of warmongering and barbarism. Admiral Veloth personally contacted Earth Command. He demanded that Jake be immediately recalled and put on trial for war crimes. But something else was spreading too. It moved quietly through the merchant guilds and civilian populations. Respect. The galaxy had grown used to the Council's slow responses to piracy and raiding. The humans had shown there was another way, a better way. And in the dark corners of Kresh territory, for the first time in many generations, the raiders felt something they never expected to feel. Fear. Over the next 2 weeks, the Valkyrie struck 3 more times. Each attack was swift and surgical. A fuel depot destroyed, a repair facility crippled, a communications relay reduced to scrap metal. Jake always gave warnings. He always allowed evacuations, but he showed no mercy to Kresh infrastructure. The other human ships in the sector followed his example. The destroyer and frigates began their own raids. They coordinated their strikes to maximize disruption. The Kresh raiding network, which had operated freely for decades, was falling apart. But Jake knew this could not last. They were too few. The Kresh had too many ships. Eventually, the raiders would adapt. They would mass their forces and strike back hard. The humans needed more help. That help arrived on the 15th day after the first raid. Commander, Amy called out with surprise in her voice. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Lots of them, Jake tensed. Identify them. Are they Kresh.negative, sir? I am reading Earth military signatures. But there are others, too. Viridian merchant vessels, Centauran security ships, even some independent council vessels. Sir, they are all requesting permission to join our operations. Jake stared at the tactical display in shock. 5 Earth vessels had arrived as promised, but with them came ships from a dozen other alien species. Vessels bearing the colors of merchants, independents, even a few council security ships that had apparently gone rogue. Amy, verify those signals carefully. Make absolutely sure this is not some kind of trap. Already verified, sir. They are genuine. And sir, you need to see this message from Earth Command. A holographic image appeared. Admiral Catherine Harper commanded Earth's forces in this part of the galaxy. Her face showed both pride and worry. Commander Morrison, I will be direct. Your actions over the past 3 weeks have caused a massive diplomatic problem. Half the council wants you arrested. But the other half, the ones who have dealt with Kresh raids for decades, they want to give you a medal. The Admiral paused. You have been unofficially designated commander of what the media is calling the Deathworlder fleet. Ships from 18 different species have volunteered to serve under human command. They are tired of the Council's slow response to piracy. They want action. You have shown them it is possible, Admiral, Jake interrupted. I am just a patrol ship commander. I am not qualified to lead a fleet with multiple species. Admiral Harper smiled grimly. 3 weeks ago I would have agreed with you, but you have done something no Council military officer has managed in a century. You have united different species around a common cause. The Kresh have not launched a single raid since your attack on their depot. You proved that strength and determination can accomplish what diplomatic notes cannot. She leaned forward. Earth Command is authorizing Operation Deathworld. You will work with these volunteer vessels to eliminate Kresh raiding as a threat to galactic trade. You have complete tactical freedom. Just try not to start a full interstellar war. The transmission ended. Jake stared at a fleet that had somehow become his responsibility. Amy spoke quietly beside him. Sir, Captain Nina Rogers of the destroyer Thunderchild is requesting a meeting with all ship commanders. Set it up. And Amy, find me everything we have on commanding multi-species military forces. We are about to learn as we go. The virtual conference room was crowded with holographic images of captains from across the volunteer fleet. Jake recognized Captain Sorath, the Viridian whose merchant ship they had saved. There was a tough-looking Centauran security commander, a pair of young, excited Xylari pilots, a serious Dracon warrior whose species rarely left their home systems. Captain Nina Rogers of the Thunderchild spoke first. She had 30 years of experience in Earth's Navy. Captains, we are in an unprecedented situation. We have a volunteer fleet from many species with one common goal. End Kresh piracy in this sector. She gestured to Jake. Commander Morrison will coordinate all tactical operations. His actions have shown both effectiveness and restraint. These are qualities we need if we want to succeed without starting a wider war. Captain Sorath spoke up. Her voice carried clearly across the virtual space. Commander Morrison, you saved my ship and crew when no one else would help. My merchant guild has given me permission to place 3 armed freighters under your command. We are not warships, but we know these trade routes better than anyone. The Centauran commander made a rumbling sound of agreement. The Council has spent decades filing complaints while the Kresh grew stronger and bolder. You humans understand that sometimes the only language predators respect is strength. My security forces are ready to serve. One by one, the volunteer captains pledged their support. Jake listened and felt the weight of their trust. These beings were risking their careers and possibly their lives. They believed humans offered a better path forward. When they finished, Jake activated the central holographic display. It showed a map of Kresh territory. Thank you all for your trust in us. Here is what we are going to do. The Kresh work from 3 major bases. They have grown comfortable raiding freely because the Council's response has always been slow and predictable. We are going to change that forever. He highlighted the first base. We hit their primary shipyard in the Kelsor system. The Viridian merchants will approach pretending to be traders. They will gather intelligence on defenses and ship positions. Meanwhile, our combat vessels position themselves for a coordinated strike. The second base flashed on the display. Their command center in the Vrax cluster. We need to disrupt their ability to coordinate raids. The Xylari pilots will do reconnaissance. Their small ships are perfect for stealth. Once we have current intelligence, the heavier vessels attack. Finally, the third base appeared. Their slave processing center on the planet Core 3. This one is personal for me. We free every captive they are holding and destroy their ability to conduct future raids. The Dracon ground forces will assault the station while we control the space around it. Captain Rogers studied the plan carefully. 3 simultaneous operations across different star systems. That is very ambitious, Commander. It is necessary, Jake replied. If we hit them one location at a time, they will adapt and reinforce their other bases. But 3 strikes at once will overwhelm their ability to respond. By the time they understand what is happening, we will have crippled their entire operation. The Draken warrior, whose name translated roughly as Kale Strongclaw, growled his approval. A hunter's strategy: strike at the throat, heart, and legs all at once. The prey cannot defend everywhere. Exactly right, Jake said. We need 2 days to position our forces. Captain Sorath, your merchants can begin reconnaissance immediately. Make it look routine. Nothing that will alert Kresh security. Xylari pilots, I need detailed scans of Vrax cluster defenses. He turned to the combat vessel commanders. The rest of us prepare for coordinated assault. I want every ship at maximum efficiency. Check weapons. Run combat drills. Make sure your crews understand we are going into very hostile territory. The conference ended. As the holographic images faded, Rachel Morgan approached Jake. Sir, you realize the Council is going to view this as an act of war. The Council had decades to solve this problem. Jake said quietly. They chose diplomacy over action. We are choosing to protect the innocent. The 2 days of preparation passed quickly. Intelligence reports flowed in from the reconnaissance missions. Each report added more detail to their understanding of Kresh defenses. The defenses were strong but not impossible to break through. The Kresh had grown lazy and complacent. They expected no serious challenge to their operations. On the night before the operation, Jake recorded a message. It would be broadcast at the same time as the attacks began. The message was not addressed to the Kresh. It was for the Galactic Council. Members of the Council, tomorrow a fleet of volunteers from across the galaxy will strike against Kresh raiders. We do this not because we want war or violence. We do it because innocent people deserve protection, because slavery and piracy cannot be tolerated, because sometimes the greatest violence is doing nothing when others are suffering. He paused and chose his next words carefully. You called us Deathworlders as an insult. You meant it as a reference to our violent origins. But Earth taught humanity that life is precious because it is fragile. Civilization only exists when good people stand against those who would destroy it. If being Deathworlders means we fight to protect the helpless, then we accept that name with pride. Tomorrow you will see what happens when Deathworlders unite. The 3 operations launched at exactly the same moment. It was a perfectly coordinated strike across many light years of space. Jake Morrison commanded the assault on Kelsor shipyard from the bridge of the Valkyrie. He watched as the Deathworlder fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. All units execute the plan, Jake ordered. The space around Kelsor station erupted in weapons fire. Human railguns tore through Kresh patrol craft with surgical precision. Viridian merchant vessels revealed their hidden weapons and disabled the station's defensive platforms. Centauran security ships formed a barrier around the area, preventing any raiders from escaping to warn their command center. The battle was over in minutes. The Kresh shipyard had produced raiding vessels for 20 years. Now it was reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Jake gave orders for search and rescue operations. He made sure no Kresh personnel were left to die in the wreckage. Even in war, humanity remembered to show mercy, Commander, Amy reported with excitement. Receiving confirmation from the other operations. Lightning operation successful. Kresh Command Center has been neutralized. Hammer operation encountered heavier resistance, but Kale Strongclaw reports the slave processing station is secured. They are evacuating captives now. Jake allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. 3 simultaneous strikes. 3 complete successes. The Kresh raiding network had been cut off at the head in a single coordinated assault. What are our casualties? Very low on our side. 2 Xylari fighters were damaged, but the pilots were recovered safely. Draken ground forces report some light wounds, but nothing serious. Kresh losses are heavy, but we have rescued survivors from all 3 locations. Kevin Drake suddenly looked up from his control panel. Sir, detecting a large faster-than-light signature. Multiple vessels incoming. Jake became tense. Identify those ships immediately. The tactical display updated as 10 vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel. Jake's first thought was to prepare for combat, but Amy's next word stopped him. Commander, it is a Galactic Council fleet. Admiral Veloth is trying to contact us. Jake straightened his uniform and prepared himself for confrontation. Put him through. Admiral Veloth appeared in the holographic display, but his expression was not the anger Jake had expected to see. Instead, the Centauran looked troubled and almost uncertain. Commander Morrison, I have been authorized by the Council to take command of this situation. Admiral, Jake replied carefully, we have just completed operations against Kresh raiding infrastructure. All targets have been neutralized with minimal harm to civilians or non-combatants. We are currently conducting search and rescue for surviving Kresh personnel and freed captives. Veloth was silent for a long moment. Commander, you have violated many Council regulations. You have conducted military operations without authorization. You have destroyed vessels and facilities belonging to a species with recognized territorial claims. Jake met the Admiral's eyes directly. Yes, Admiral, I have done all those things. And in doing so, we have freed over 2,000 beings from slavery and eliminated the threat of Kresh raiding in this entire sector. If that is a crime, then I accept whatever consequences come. Admiral Veloth's expression changed. For the first time since Jake had known him, the Centauran showed something that looked like genuine respect. Commander, the Council has been arguing about your actions for 3 weeks. The diplomatic corps is in complete chaos. Half the member species are demanding your immediate arrest and trial. He paused deliberately. The other half is calling you a hero. Merchant guilds across the galaxy have petitioned for the Council to formally recognize your task force. Civilian populations on 36 worlds have held public demonstrations in support of the Deathworlder fleet. Jake felt surprised. Admiral, what exactly are you saying? I am saying, Commander, that you have accomplished what the Council could not do. The Kresh Dominion has sent an official communication to us. They are requesting negotiations. They are offering to stop all raiding operations permanently and return all captured beings. In exchange, they want a guarantee of no further attacks on their territory by human forces. The bridge crew started to cheer, but quickly caught themselves and returned to professional silence. Jake struggled to understand what he was hearing. Are you saying they are surrendering? In every way except the actual word, Veloth confirmed. You have demonstrated that humans and their allies are willing to fight hard to protect innocent lives. The Kresh leadership has calculated that continued conflict is unprofitable and dangerous for them. They would rather negotiate peace than face more losses. Admiral Veloth leaned forward in his chair. Commander Morrison, the Council is prepared to offer you a choice. You can face formal charges for your violations of protocol, or you can accept a new position. Commander of the newly established Galactic Rapid Response Force, a multi-species fleet authorized to respond to emergencies without waiting for slow bureaucratic approval. Jake felt every eye on the bridge looking at him. Admiral, I would need strong guarantees. My crews would need protection from political punishment. The Viridian merchants, the Centauran security forces, the Zilari pilots, everyone who volunteered to fight with us must be protected, already included in the formal proposal, Veloth assured him. The Council has learned a difficult lesson. Sometimes the greatest wisdom is knowing when to step aside and let those willing to act do what is necessary. Jake looked around his bridge. He saw hope and pride shining in the faces of his crew. He thought about the rescued captives who would return to their families. He thought about merchant vessels that could now travel safely. He thought about colonies that no longer had to fear raids. Admiral Veloth, I accept this position on behalf of my crew and all the volunteer forces, but I have one firm condition that cannot be negotiated. Name your condition. This force answers to the people we are protecting, not to politicians or bureaucrats. If we receive a distress call, we respond immediately. No debates, no committees, no waiting for authorization while people die. That point is absolutely non-negotiable. Admiral Veloth remained quiet for what felt like a very long time. Then incredibly he smiled. Commander, the Council has already agreed to exactly that condition. It seems they have learned to trust human judgment, at least when it comes to matters of direct action and protection. The transmission ended. This time the bridge erupted in genuine celebration. Jake stood at the center of it all. He felt the release of 3 weeks of constant tension and conflict. They had gambled everything on one belief. The belief that protecting innocent people was more important than following rules. And somehow, against all odds, they had won. The Deathworlder fleet had changed the galaxy forever. Later that day, As the Deathworlder fleet prepared to escort the freed captives back to their home worlds, Jake found himself standing at the observation window again. He looked out at the assembled vessels floating in space. Human ships, Viridian merchants, Centauran security craft, Silari fighters, Draken assault ships. A fleet born from one simple idea: the strong should protect the weak. Amy walked up beside him at the window. "Sir, the freed captives are asking to meet you. They want to thank the Deathworlders who saved them from slavery." Jake smiled warmly. "Tell them the Deathworlders were honored to help them." And Amy sent a message to Earth Command. "Tell them Operation Deathworld is complete and successful. The galaxy is a safer place today than it was yesterday." As the ships began their journey home, carrying freed beings to safety and bringing hope to countless worlds, Jake thought about how much had changed. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy as outsiders. They were dismissed as violent primitives from a death world, but they had proven something important. Sometimes the greatest strength comes not from avoiding conflict. It comes from knowing when to fight for what is right. The days that followed were busy with coordination and planning. The newly formed Galactic Rapid Response Force needed structure. They needed clear chains of command. They needed protocols that allowed quick action without the endless delays of council bureaucracy. Jake worked closely with Captain Rogers and the other senior commanders. They created a system where any ship could respond immediately to a distress call. The nearest vessels would go first. Others would follow as backup. No more waiting for permission. No more forms to fill out while people died. The council watched nervously at first. Some members still complained about human aggression, but as weeks passed and the results became clear, even the critics had to admit the system worked. Response times to emergencies dropped from days to hours. Piracy rates fell sharply across multiple sectors. Merchant traffic increased as traders felt safer on the space lanes. More species volunteered to join the response force. A group of Quarian medical ships offered their services. Thalian engineers brought their repair vessels. Even a few Arxian scholars joined, wanting to document this new era in galactic history. 6 weeks after the Battle of Kelsor, Jake received an unexpected visitor. Admiral Veloth requested permission to come aboard the Valkyrie. Jake agreed, curious about what the Centauran wanted. The Admiral arrived with minimal ceremony. He walked onto the bridge and looked around at the human crew working efficiently at their stations. Jake met him near the command chair. "Admiral Veloth, welcome aboard. What brings you to the Valkyrie?" The Centauran's expression was hard to read. "Commander Morrison, I came to apologize. When we first met, I viewed your actions as reckless and dangerous. I believed you were a threat to galactic stability. I was wrong." Jake felt surprised but kept his face neutral. "You were doing your job, Admiral, following the rules you were given." "Yes, but I failed to see that sometimes rules can become obstacles to what is right." Veloth walked to the observation window and looked out at the fleet. "My species helped found the Galactic Council 500 years ago. We built a system based on careful deliberation and consensus. We believed this was the path to lasting peace." He turned back to Jake. "What we created instead was a system so slow and cautious that it could not protect its own citizens. We spent decades debating the crash problem while people suffered. You humans showed us there was another way, not through reckless violence but through decisive action guided by clear moral principles." Jake nodded slowly. "Admiral, we do not claim to have all the answers. Earth's history is full of mistakes. We have fought terrible wars. We have caused great suffering. But we have also learned that when innocent people need help, hesitation can be as harmful as aggression. That is wisdom born of experience," Veloth said. "The Council species have lived in relative peace for so long that we forgot how to respond to real threats. We mistook patience for wisdom and caution for virtue. You reminded us that courage and action have their place too." The Admiral extended his hand in the human custom he had learned. "I wanted to tell you personally that the Council has formally recognized the Rapid Response Force as an official galactic institution. You will have the resources and authority you need. The Council will support your mission fully." Jake shook the Admiral's hand firmly. "Thank you, sir. That means a great deal. Not just to me, but to every being who volunteered to serve in this fleet." After Veloth left, Rachel approached Jake with a data pad. "Sir, we have received 47 new applications from ships wanting to join the response force, and we are getting distress call reports from across 3 sectors. Looks like word has spread that there is finally someone who will actually respond. Jake looked at the list of calls. Most were minor issues that local authorities could handle, but 3 caught his attention. A colony reporting strange disappearances, a research station losing contact with its supply ships, a mining operation under siege by unknown attackers. Dispatch teams to all 3 locations. Coordinate with local security forces. I want full reports within 12 hours. We respond to every legitimate call for help. That is our mission now, Rachel smiled. The crew is already calling this the best assignment they have ever had. They feel like they are actually making a difference instead of just patrolling empty space. That night, Jake recorded a message to be sent to all ships in the Rapid Response Force. It would serve as their unofficial motto and guiding principle. To all members of the Galactic Rapid Response Force. We come from many worlds and many species. We have different cultures, different languages, different ways of seeing the universe. But we are united by one belief, that every innocent life has value, that those with the power to help have the duty to act, that courage and compassion are not opposites but partners. Some call us Deathworlders. They mean it as an insult, a reference to the hard worlds that shaped us. But we wear that name with pride. Because Deathworlds teach survival. They teach strength. They teach that life is precious exactly because it is fragile. And that makes us the perfect guardians for those who cannot defend themselves. When you hear a distress call, you will respond. When you see injustice, you will act. When innocent beings need help, you will be there. Not because it is easy, not because it is safe, but because it is right. We are the shield that guards the helpless. We are the sword that defends the weak. We are the answer when others cry out in the darkness. We are the Rapid Response Force, and we will never abandon those who need us. The message was transmitted across the fleet. Within hours, it was being repeated on hundreds of worlds. It became a symbol of the new era, an era where help would come not eventually, but immediately, where the strong would protect the weak not out of obligation, but out of shared conviction. 3 months after the formation of the response force, Jake received word that the creche negotiations were complete. The former raiders had agreed to strict limitations on their activities. They would pay reparations to their victims. They would return all stolen property and free all captives. In exchange, they received guaranteed borders and trade rights. It was not perfect justice. Some of the creche leaders who had ordered terrible crimes would never face trial, but it was practical justice. It ended the threat and freed thousands of beings from suffering. Sometimes that had to be enough. Jake stood at his usual place by the window watching the stars. Amy joined him, as she often did during quiet moments. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had not responded to that first distress call?" she asked. Jake considered the question. Every day. If we had followed protocol, 147 beings would have died or been enslaved. The creche would still be raiding freely. The response force would not exist. Sometimes I think about how much can change from a single decision. Do you regret it? All the trouble it caused, not for a second. Jake turned to look at his communications officer. Amy, we did not join Earth's space service to sit safely in patrol routes. We joined to make a difference. To help people. If that means bending some rules, I can live with that. She smiled. The crew feels the same way, sir. They are proud of what we built here. As another day ended and the Valkyrie continued its patrol, Jake felt something he had not felt in a long time. Hope. Not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. They had proven that different species could work together for the common good. That action could be guided by compassion. That strength could serve justice. The aliens had sent an SOS into the void. The Deathworlders had answered with fire, yes, but also with courage, with compassion, and with an unshakable belief that every life was worth protecting. And in doing so, they had lit a flame of hope that would burn across the stars for generations to come. 1 year had passed since that first rescue mission. The Galactic Rapid Response Force had grown from a handful of volunteer ships into a proper fleet, with over 200 vessels. They had bases in 15 different systems. Training academies were teaching crews from dozens of species how to work together effectively. Jake Morrison had been promoted twice. He now held the rank of Admiral, though he still preferred to work from the bridge of the Valkyrie. The ship had become famous across the galaxy. Children played games pretending to be the crew of the Valkyrie. Artists created paintings of the moment when the Deathworlders had answered the call. But Jake knew that fame meant nothing compared to the work they did every day. The response force had answered over 3,000 distress calls in the past year. They had saved tens of thousands of lives. They had stopped pirates, rescued stranded ships, evacuated colonies threatened by natural disasters, and delivered emergency supplies to worlds in crisis. On the anniversary of the Harmony's light rescue, the Galactic Council held a special ceremony. Jake had tried to decline the invitation. He did not like ceremonies and speeches, but Earth Command had insisted. This was important for diplomatic relations. The ceremony took place on Centaura Prime, the Council's capital world. Jake stood on a massive stage in front of thousands of beings from hundreds of species. Admiral Veloth stood beside him, along with Captain Sorath and other key members of the response force. The council speaker, an elderly Arxian named Elder Thane, addressed the assembled crowd. His voice was amplified to reach everyone. 1 year ago, this council faced a crisis. Not a crisis of war or economics, but a crisis of purpose. We had built a system that valued procedure over action, that chose caution over courage, that let innocent beings suffer while we debated proper protocols. Then came the humans, a young species from a world we considered barely habitable. They showed us something we had forgotten. That civilization exists not through perfect rules, but through the willingness of good people to act when others need help. Elder Thane gestured to Jake and the others on stage. These beings created the Galactic Rapid Response Force. In 1 year, they have saved more lives than our traditional security forces saved in the previous decade. They have shown that different species can work together toward common goals. They have proven that strength guided by compassion can change the galaxy. The crowd erupted in applause. Jake felt uncomfortable with all the attention. He glanced at Amy, who stood in the crowd with the rest of the Valkyrie crew. She gave him an encouraging smile. When the applause died down, Elder Thane continued. Today, the Galactic Council formally recognizes the Rapid Response Force as a permanent institution. We grant them the authority to act independently in emergency situations. We commit resources to expand their capabilities. And we acknowledge that they represent the best of what our civilization can achieve when we work together. More cheering followed. Then Elder Thane turned directly to Jake. Admiral Morrison, would you like to say a few words? Jake had prepared a short speech, but looking out at all those faces from all those different worlds, he decided to speak from the heart instead. Thank you, Elder Thane. Thank you to the Council for your support. But I need to be clear about something. The Rapid Response Force is not about humans. It is not about any single species. It is about a simple idea. When someone calls for help, we answer. When someone is in danger, we respond. When someone is suffering, we act. He looked around at the crowd. Every species here has its own strengths. Humans learned courage from our harsh world. Viridians learned cooperation from their communal culture. Centaurans learned discipline from their long history. Draken learned honor from their warrior traditions. When we combine all these strengths, we become something greater than any of us could be alone. Jake paused. The response force saved many lives this year, but we could not have done it alone. Every merchant who shared intelligence, every colony that provided supplies, every civilian who reported suspicious activity, you all contributed to making the galaxy safer. This success belongs to everyone. Someone in the crowd, I believe it was a Viridian merchant, called out a question. Admiral Morrison, what message do you have for those who still doubt the response force? For those who say you are too violent or too quick to act? Jake considered the question carefully. I would say this. We are not violent. We are determined. There is a difference. Violence for its own sake serves no purpose, but force used to protect the innocent, to stop those who cause harm, that serves justice. We do not seek conflict. We seek peace. But we understand that sometimes peace must be defended with strength. He thought about all the missions they had flown in the past year. Every distress call they had answered. I have seen the faces of beings we rescued from slavery. I have watched parents reunited with children they thought were lost forever. I have seen colonies saved from disaster. Those moments make everything worthwhile. If defending those innocent lives makes us too quick to act, then I accept that criticism gladly. The applause that followed was thunderous. Jake stepped back from the speaker's position glad to be done with public speaking. But Elder Thane had one more announcement. Before we conclude, I have a special presentation. Captain Sorath of the Harmony's Light, would you please come forward? Sorath walked to the center of the stage. With her came a group of Viridian younglings, the same children who had been aboard her ship during the Kresh attack. They had grown over the past year, but their blue skin and large eyes were unmistakable. Captain Sorath spoke with emotion clear in her voice. Admiral Morrison, these children wanted to meet you. They wanted to thank the human who saved their lives. Many of them have decided they want to join the response force when they are old enough. They want to help others the way you helped them. One of the younglings, a small female, stepped forward. She held out a handmade drawing. It showed the Valkyrie fighting Kresh ships. The human ship was colored in bright blues and golds. Thank you for saving us, Admiral. You and your crew are heroes to my whole family. Jake knelt down to take the drawing. He felt his throat tighten with emotion. Thank you. This means more to me than any medal or ceremony. You stay safe, all right? And if you do join the response force someday, I will be honored to serve with you. The ceremony concluded with more speeches and celebrations, but Jake's mind kept returning to those children. That was why the response force existed. Not for glory or recognition. For moments like this. For the chance to give people their futures back. Later that evening, the senior officers of the response force gathered for a private dinner. It was a much smaller and more comfortable affair than the public ceremony. Jake sat at a table with Captain Rogers, Captain Sorath, Commander Kale Strongclaw, and several others who had been with them from the beginning. Captain Rogers raised her glass. To the Deathworlder fleet. May we always answer the call. To the Deathworlder fleet. Everyone echoed. As they talked and shared stories from the past year, Jake felt grateful for these friendships. A year ago, most of these beings had been strangers from different worlds. Now they were family. They had fought together, bled together, saved lives together. Those experiences created bonds that transcended species and culture. Kale Strongclaw, the massive Dracon warrior, spoke in his deep rumbling voice. I never thought I would fight alongside humans. My people believed you were soft. Weak because you showed mercy even to enemies. But I was wrong. Mercy is not weakness. It is strength controlled. It is choosing compassion when violence would be easier. You taught me that, Admiral Morrison. Jake shook his head. We all taught each other. That is what makes this work. We bring different perspectives, different experiences. When we combine them, we become wiser and stronger than any of us could be separately. The dinner continued late into the night. Eventually, people began to leave. Jake found himself alone with Amy on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights of Centaura Prime stretched to the horizon. It has been quite a year, Amy said softly. That it has. Jake looked up at the unfamiliar stars. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if we had ignored that first distress call. If we had followed the rules and waited for the council to respond, those children would not be alive. Thousands of others would still be slaves or worse. The galaxy would be a darker place. Jake nodded. I guess sometimes breaking the rules is the right thing to do, not because rules do not matter, but because some things matter more, like protecting innocent lives, like standing up for what is right even when it is difficult. Earth taught us well, Amy said with a smile. Our planet may be a death world to others, but it taught humanity some valuable lessons. Never give up. Never abandon those in need. Always fight for what matters. And now we are teaching those lessons to the rest of the galaxy. Jake turned to face his communications officer. Amy, thank you for believing in this mission from the start. Thank you for standing with me even when it meant risking your career. She met his eyes. Sir, serving on the Valkyrie, being part of the response force, it has been the honor of my life. I would not change anything. As they stood together looking out at the city, Jake thought about the future. There would be more distress calls, more emergencies, more challenges to face. But now they were ready. The Rapid Response Force,